What's up, everybody? Welcome to Season 3, Episode 3 of the Maine Stand, here live and in person.
Pat doing the intro and not me.
Yeah,
for once.
It's pretty wild. It's because I had the idea for this episode topic, so they told me I get to lead it. Fresh off of Saturday's games over this past weekend, Man City just beat Newcastle 1-0 like maybe 30 minutes ago.
Yeah, if that.
Pretty all right game, but it does segue nicely into the topic of conversation today, which is Newcastle United, and the Saudi investment in football is kind of like tertiary to the conversation. But really, I think what the conversation I wanted to have today was, it's been 2 games. Newcastle came out pretty hot. They won their first game 5-1. They just had their first real test. In quotation marks, because it's only the second game of the season, in Man City at home. Lost 1-0. Didn't look super inspiring, in my opinion. I think they looked good in some instances of the game, but it never really looked like they were overly threatening to City. So I guess the conversation I kind of wanted to have with you guys and get your take on is, are Newcastle the real deal, or have some people kind of been overhyping them this season? Because I know we all kind of have them right around 5th, 6th place in our season previews, but a lot of people are saying that, maybe they could challenge for the title, they could finish top 4. Do we think that, given the amount of investment Newcastle have gotten so far, that that's fair? And then do you think that they'll do it? Do you think that it's possible, given what we've seen in early stages, first 2 games from them? But just what are your overall thoughts on Newcastle early, and then kind of how do we feel about investment as a whole from them? What's their money looked like to you? Has it been good, been sound? Do you think they've done it right, done it wrong? I'll kick it over to you guys for kind of some thoughts there.
Way too early thought. I think the predictions are spot on. I personally think they are a top 3 team this year. Way too early to say how it will shake out, obviously. But I think coming off of a strong year, their first full year under Saudi investment, they've made a few really key signings with Isak. Now they have Tonali in. They shored up the back line with Trippier. Like, I think they are the real deal, and I think time has moved a lot faster than I think we all realize, because it's not that they're under Saudi ownership as of last month. We've seen this for 2 years now.
Yeah, it's been about a year, right?
And both of those years have been very strong showings for Newcastle. And out of the gate, like for today, as an example, against a side like City, it was a 1-0 game. And it wasn't like City had a crazy better 90 minutes of football. Newcastle gave them a run for it, and it looked like a proper top 4, top 5 matchup that City has played over the last 4 years. You saw games like that against Liverpool, against Chelsea, against Tottenham over the last few years. And I think that speaks a lot to what Newcastle have done in bringing in those key pieces over the last few years.
Yeah, no, it was a good game, and Newcastle definitely created their chances too. I think, also, remiss not to mention guys like Bruno Guimaraes, and then they just brought in Harvey Barnes over the summer, Ben Gordon last year. They made a lot of really good signings. I think they've spent money smart. But Josh, give me your feelings?
Yeah, I'm obviously going to reiterate a lot of the same things you guys already said. I think the investment has been shrewd in a lot of players. Obviously, I'm a big Tonali guy. I made that clear from the jump. So great all around there. City away today was always going to be probably one of their hardest 3 games of the season. I think when you look at Newcastle as a whole, I think they probably could have one of the best home records this season.
Easily.
I mean, the atmosphere at St. James is unreal. So I think they're going to be fine there. It's going to be about how many away games they can win, which I guess we'll see as time goes on. I do think they're a top 4 or 5 side. I think I forget where I had them in my predictions.
Yeah, 5th. I think you were the one that had
yeah.
him 5th, and Mitch and I had him 6th to start the year, and I think that's fair.
Yeah, especially with European football coming in, they are going to feel a little bit of pressure from that, just with added minutes and everything. So we'll see how that shakes out. But there is expectations with this Newcastle side, with the money coming in. It'll be interesting to see how Eddie Howe and all those guys cope, but it's been all good so far.
What do you when do you think they finally spend the big bucks? Because they've been pretty. They've kind of taken a like a city approach to their investment. They haven't really spent, they haven't done what Boley did and spent, $300-400 million 2 years in a row. They kind of went and they spent, 50 here, 60 here, 45 here, 45 here, 45, 30. They've been, I don't think they've signed that many players either, but that's kind of the point that I make. They've been pretty methodical with how they've invested, and they've looked at like areas that the squad really needs shoring up in. When do you think they finally bite the bullet and spend the big bucks to really get to that next level? Because I do think that despite having Eddie Howe as a good manager, and we can talk about Eddie Howe as well, because I think that he's a great coach, but, anyway, do you think that that's something they need to do? They need to go out and they need to get that like superstar to kind of elevate the squad just one more final level?
They will eventually. I don't think they're there yet. They need to get close to winning something. Either a big final, I'm not talking like a Carabao Cup kind of deal.
Like an FA Cup or something
FA
like
Cup,
that.
Something like that. Make it far in the Champions League, or not far, but like quarterfinals. Something like that that's like real tangible, that they can be like, okay, now it's time to go get the guy. People might think I'm crazy for this, but it's not that much different than like Liverpool. Going into the year we won the Champions League with Klopp and like going out and getting Van Dijk, and obviously Van Dijk was the year before, but Alisson that summer was like our key piece. I think Newcastle's really similar because it's a lot about just making those fans like believe again that they're good. And I think they've done that. The atmosphere has improved in the last 2 years because they believe under Eddie Howe and under this new movement or program they're doing. I think that was the first kind of step. The fans are behind him now. I think they'll get there, and they'll sign their star once they've made that final step, which they haven't yet.
Yeah,
that'll be actually winning silverware or making progress.
It's like the final push.
Yeah,
so to speak.
In my opinion, I think they're on the right track. I personally think they need a couple of big veteran talents.
I think they
versus a younger talent. I think losing a player like Maximin on the left side, who's kind of really bossed it, and then quite frankly taking a step back with Gordon. I think he's
that's a step back.
I think he's a great, promising young player. I just think he takes away from the pressure that Allen kind of forces on a defense with his flair, his speed, things like that. And he bossed that left side for years. So I just think they need a couple of big name older a
dude who's like in his prime. Yeah, 28, 27,
29.
28, like actually in his prime.
Yeah, it takes a lot to convince a guy of that stature, though, to come to a team like Newcastle.
So they need to win something.
Yeah, who were just fighting relegation 2 years ago. Literally in dead last. It's shrewd investment that gets you to a level where you're in Champions League. To actually win something, it's like...
It's a lot harder. They need to... Again, going to go back to what I know. They need to do the City thing. City won the FA Cup, and then Aguero, guys like Aguero would take a look at them, and then they won the league. I think they need, like you said, Josh, I think that kind of hits the nail on the head. I think for Newcastle to take that next step, they do need to get close to winning something, an FA Cup final, something like that. But outside of that, and outside of Newcastle, do you think that the way their investment has been handled compared to, say, a Chelsea, which version do you prefer? I guess. Do you think that Newcastle have handled it better than Chelsea overall?
Yeah.
Do you think, thoughts?
100% Newcastle, because again, I'm into like the story and all of that kind of aspect to it. Again, similar to what Liverpool did, you have to get the fans to believe first and get the talent, shrewd investment, and then kind of grow from there. And that's exactly what Newcastle's doing. It feels like we can see kind of the rise up the mountain for them. Whereas Chelsea, it just feels like you're throwing paint at a wall and seeing kind of what sticks legitimately. So in my mind, it's Newcastle all the way. It's kind of a lot more likable than just Chelsea going out and pillaging talent from everywhere and really no thought to chemistry or how they fit in at all.
Yeah, speaking of just pillaging chemistry and adding players to a league. Let's talk about the new Saudi investment, the new Saudi Pro League, kind of just them taking talent from Europe.
So I'm glad you mentioned that, because with what Josh was saying, I do like the Newcastle approach, albeit under Saudi ownership, put a ton of money into the club right out of the gate. Now we're seeing a lot of players getting poached, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of players kind of passed it though.
Hopefully,
Most of them.
A lot of players have kind of come out and said, I'm like with Mo Salah, a lot of rumors swirling about him going, but I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens after this initial push of players going over to Saudi, because now we have conversation about Saudi trying to
Get a team in the Champions League.
Get a team in the Champions League, things like that. So is it going to be like a Super League thing? Are these players going to be there to stay for the next 7 years? Or are we going to see quick turnaround? Like, there was rumors swirling around that Newcastle was going to be getting all these players on loan. Like,
Yeah, but that's like
some crazy allegations, but is it really out of the realm of possibilities?
I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, but I think it's pretty possible for UEFA to be like, yeah, you can do that, but like you're not participating in European competition ever.
Yeah, and
like, we're going to stop you from doing it. The Premier League would bar that from happening.
I would hope that's the direction it goes, but.
Well, that's just like unfair.
It is very unfair. Yeah. If you sign, somebody for a bag of chips and then send them back for a bottle of water, it's not like...
Yeah, we're not running a Barcelona and that Chinese club organization here. We're not just flip-flopping Paulinho around every other year.
But we haven't had it around long enough to see what's going to pan out, because it seems like with the Saudi League and how it's run, it's like how... If we can throw enough money at it, it's gonna work out, which is wild that they're not doing this with Newcastle and letting Chelsea kind of shoot themselves in the foot. It's a crazy kind of world we're living in, because in the 15 years that I've been following football, this has never really been an issue.
I've probably got a pretty different take than everybody else has on the Saudi Pro League stuff. Honestly, who cares? Genuinely, who cares? They can spend all the money they want on a lot. They've maybe signed like 4 guys that are like in decent parts of their career. Like Milinkovic-Savic, great signing for the Saudi league. I think he'll actually help grow the league. Ronaldo, good face of the league. Conte, unbelievably past it. Benzema, past it. He's not his best anymore. He's mid-30s. Fabinho, Mahrez, Firmino, good. He's
Patrick in his first game.
Yeah, because he's in the. You look at the quality. Say whatever you want about the MLS, but at least MLS fans know what their league is.
Yeah,
and the quality just isn't there. If the best team in the Saudi league gets to play in the Champions League, they're going to get humbled year after year after year. And the allure of playing in the Champions League is going to be there, but until the league actually ups its quality and gets to the point where all of their teams can compete with European sides, then I just don't think that it's going to matter if a couple of 29 to 30 plus year old players are going to Saudi Arabia for bags of money every year. To me, it's just like going to retire in the MLS. That's how the Saudi Arabia feels, but just for more money.
Yeah, to me, it honestly feels almost like the argument we get as American sports fans, like in basketball when LeBron sits out of a game, or when you have a huge player that in a game leading up to a playoff run, you have people spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to go see these athletes play for their clubs. And I think it's a little bit selfish, personally.
Bless you.
Because it's not as readily available as a Premier League fixture, a Bundesliga fixture, fucking a Serie A fixture. You can wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and watch
Europe's-
Serie A on Paramount Plus.
Europe's top leagues are pretty accessible now.
They're
which-
very accessible.
Side note, that's for
Like,
a different episode.
Crazy amount of accessibility over the last 10 years.
And it's just different than when those guys go to retire there. But it's not so dissimilar to when China popped up and was buying players a few years ago when guys like Hulk and Oscar.
I actually have a different.
It's 4 players, not 15 to 20, and every single player is getting linked, and they're not.
Well, yeah,
it's
they
not
have more money.
It's not Chinese ownership in every
right.
piece of the major leagues.
That is true. Yeah,
But I think they've overextended a
Old
little
Milwaukee
bit.
has something to say.
Sorry.
Shout out old Milwaukee. I actually have a different take on this. That I think it's actually pretty like smart investment from Saudi Arabia.
I agree with that.
I
In
think
terms of this is such a more planned out league than China was, than any of the
They're
like the
actually
bigger
trying
leagues.
to grow it.
Yeah, and they actually to be able to like pitch Neymar.
Did you see his presentation today?
Yeah,
It was
did not.
You talked about it.
crazy. Dude, they had like, sorry to cut you off, Josh,
you're
but
good.
you can
We'll
go
come
back
back.
into it in a sec. Neymar came out of like a fucking FIFA tunnel, dude. Like a lit FIFA tunnel to a full stadium. Lights everywhere. They did like a light show where Neymar's face was up in lights above the stadium. And as he's walking out, they made like a FIFA card outline walkout of him like coming down the tunnel and into the it was fucking insane.
You know, I really was hoping you were going to say that they gave him the Wolfsburg treatment with like the 2 front office staff
No,
members
it was-
holding up the fucking backdrop, the press backdrop
Just-
over the glass door, just dropped
Dude,
it.
it was crazy.
I'll
Insane.
have to check that
But
out.
so, I mean, pitching Neymar, even the thought of that, like to be able to have a plan set out of like, here's how you can grow your brand, still be successful in this league, because like people are going for the money, but I have a hard time believing that all of them are just going for the money. Like they are still footballers.
I think Ronaldo and Neymar, they see it as an opportunity to actually grow the league and be a part of growing. Just similar to Messi coming to the MLS and Beckham coming to the MLS, saw it as a way to help grow that league hand in hand with their brand, obviously, but be associated with a league that's up and coming and seeing like what they can do to grow it.
It seems more sustainable than a lot of like other leagues we saw pop
Yeah, than
up.
what China was doing, for example. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it will be. I mean, it's gotten way more social media attention. There will be people who watch games just to watch these players too. So
100%. Yeah.
it'll be a little bit interesting to see kind of where it goes. I don't know if it ever competes.
No.
It will. I don't think it'll compete, but it'll accelerate how many people leave maybe when they're 30.
Agreed. 100%. No, I think the pedigree that you get from playing in Europe will make it really tough for players to want to go to Saudi Arabia in the prime of their career, especially like the top players. But the guys that like get to 30 and they're like, I'm tired of this, man. I just want to go make money. And they're like decent, like 10 goal Premier League players, 15 goal Premier League players. They're
Fucking
like,
Jordan Henderson.
yeah, well, never mind. Anyway, guys that are like middling in these mid-table sides. Mitrovic just went to Al Hilal for $52 million today. Guys like that,
which is crazy.
Saudi is a perfect move for him.
It's crazy to me that Mitrovic almost got double of what St. Maximin got to go over to Saudi Arabia.
St. Maximin isn't really that good, man.
He isn't.
He really
but like,
isn't.
It's I guess the personality.
Gucci headbands, man.
What's the
Gucci
person at? I mean, Mitro
The swag.
Mitro has aggressiveness. That's
I mean, he also has a red card for headbutting of an
he
official.
also has like double the amount of goals in St. Maximin.
He does.
Probably
He
triple.
does. I wonder what Mitrovic is going to do over there.
He'll score
really
a few.
do.
I mean,
Yeah,
he'll score
some goals.
10 or 20 goals. I don't know.
Well,
Firmino scored a hat trick in his debut.
I was
So
gonna say
Fabinho's getting gifted
gifted
Rollies.
Rolexes.
So
Yeah. That league is crazy. I need to find a way to actually watch like 1 or 2 games. Like at this point, like I think I have to.
I'll
tune
try
in
it out, but
a couple of times. I mean, I'm not going to.
I don't even
choose to watch
Yeah.
any game there over the Prem or the Bundesliga. I'm watching the MLS right now because I like the Revolution and Messi's there. So that's kind of the appeal for me. I don't really care about Ronaldo. I want to watch the team with Mahrez, Firmino, and St. Maximin as a front three because that's sick.
Mendy in goal too.
Yeah, Ferland. He's such a. There's so many. That's a whole. I can do a whole other episode on guys like him, man. Like where he was good for like a year and a half, and now he's in Saudi Arabia.
I know.
He was the best goalie in the world 2 years ago, but
for a year and a half, yeah.
yeah, it's crazy, man. But I mean, yeah, I guess at the end of the day, like the Saudi stuff is just interesting, and I think the league really is doing some At the end of the day,
it's a great
cool
move
stuff.
for guys.
Yeah.
Like St. Maximin is a really good example of a guy who it seemed like he's doing really good and stuff, but he lost his spot in that Newcastle team. He wasn't going to keep playing.
It's almost like an Adama Traore.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, you can
he's
go
at
off,
Fulham now.
You can go off to Saudi Arabia and like make a bunch of money. You're still good and everything, but it's like, you're just deciding to retire.
You're just going there, yeah.
Yeah, and he's making money. He's making bread, generational wealth.
Go for it. I mean, if that's what you want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think when it all started, I mean, this can kind of like be the closing statement, I guess, to everything. But when all the players moving to like random foreign, non-European countries to make money all started, it was when Oscar went to Shanghai, and they were like, "Why'd you do that?" He's like, "They offered me so much money. I don't care that I'm in my prime. Like, I'm here to make money to provide wealth for my family for the rest of their life. Like, I'm obviously taking this move. I'm gonna go make my family rich." And like that was his reason. And he went to China for like $60 million a year at 26 years old.
Good on you.
And we also see football from like a little bit of a privileged point of view where it's not like our livelihood.
Yeah, and
there's people that grow up in Brazil where it's like they're doing football to like be something.
You gotta have to humanize these players at the end of the day. Like, I get every player. I respect the players that decide to stay because they recognize that they have enough money that they're okay, but I also like fully get it. And I'm never going to demonize a player for deciding to move to Saudi Arabia for generational wealth for himself and his family. Like,
sure, I mean, Sadio Mane builds like hospitals in his home village of Senegal. How many hospitals can he build with the money he makes in Saudi?
Yeah, and if Bernardo had taken that deal that Saudi Arabia were offering him, that he sets his entire family up for next 20 to 40 years,
grandkids
with that money. Yeah, it's insane. And what's Ronaldo going to do for his children? The Mane thing is a really good example. Firmino and his family, Fabinho and his family, all these the big name guys that can move over there for real money. Like I don't knock them for doing it, man. I just don't.
Yeah.
Like,
It's hard to say what you would do too if you weren't in that situation. Like if someone offered you triple wages right now,
I would take it in a heartbeat.
Exactly.
Bye.
That was really all I had to cover this weekend. The football on Saturday overall was
meh.
It was
Pretty
fine.
meh.
Liverpool beat the hell out of Bournemouth.
Yeah. Dominic Szoboszlai is the best player in the world.
Fuck that soft ass red
Social
card.
team, can you clip that real quick and just throw that up?
In the world.
We're gonna farm
Clip it all you want.
We're gonna farm impressions off
What
this.
a player.
Or a player.
Bargain for $80 million, in my opinion.
City are still the best team in the league.
And that was Talking Soccer.
And that's the Main Stand episode 3, season 3. Thanks for tuning in. Talk to you guys later. In person.
Deuces.
Right.